So much.
Will I see? Am I going to see you on the screen?
When we actually put it up, yeah, it'll be split screen.
No, but are you going to come up right now? No, you're right
Okay.
here. Sorry.
Can you see me? I'm up in the corner. All right, cool.
Sorry.
We should point out that it's morning.
Yeah, I don't have any fresh coffee.
No.
Drinking yesterday's.
Out of a teacup.
Yeah, Granny's teacup.
Oh, is it Granny's teacup?
Actually, it's not. Granny's teacup is over there, and it doesn't like the microwave. I put it in the microwave, and there was this shower of gold sparks.
Oh, because it's got the gold.
It's too old. Yeah.
I've done that too. So whose teacup is this?
I don't know. It's probably one I found on the side of the road.
Perfect.
Yeah. Are we talking now?
Oh yeah, we sure are.
Sorry.
No, are you kidding? This is the best part. But I'm going to let people know who you are. You're Anakana Schofield, and you're the author of Malarky. Only I like it when you say it. Say Malarky.
Malarky.
That's right. Okay, so first of all, tell us where do you come by way of? So you're living in Vancouver now, but you come by way of.
Well, I moved to Vancouver from Dublin, probably around 13 years ago. And my mother lives in the west of Ireland, in County Mayo. My father was from Manchester, Lancashire, Northern England, but sadly he died in 1977.
Oh, sorry.
So I call myself an Irish Anglo rather than Anglo-Irish because we don't have any money.
No.
But really, I'm Irish Canadian. That's what I am.
Tell us a little bit about Malarky. So, I mean, you hear buzz. Maybe that's not these overused terms. But Malarky it absolutely falls into my personal category of a buzz title for this past season. So, so why don't you tell us a little bit about this book?
Okay. I like the word buzz only because of the association with the bees. I'm fond of the bees. The notion that the bees might like my book is a thrilling one. So Malarky is the story of one ordinary, extraordinary older woman in rural Ireland. Specifically, the book is set in County Mayo, and she refuses to be sunk by what life is serving her. It's essentially a book about grief. I think the novel is about grief. For all the sex and sadness and baking, it's essentially a story of grief.
What do you?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so she's I wanted to. Well, the book is really about this woman, our woman. I call her. Her name is Philomena, but I also call her our woman, and it has a rotating point of view. And the idea was to give the reader a whole woman in an unmitigated, relentless manner. And so that was what I did. And so the perspective in the book rotates, and I refer to her as our woman, which in Hiberno English is commonly your woman, your man. And I wanted to do like a riposta response to your man or your woman, although we don't tend to use your woman as much as we use your man. We tend to say your one when we're referring to women. So our woman is the response to that in Hiberno English. And so the idea was that the reader would possess her on some sense. So it was more than just perspective-wise, point of view-wise. It was more than just you're reading and you're looking outwards at this woman. I wanted you to be like under her fingernails or in her kidneys.
Before we started recording, you said something. Oh, what is it that we were talking about reading because people are going to see all the books behind you. And what did you say that we read to? What was it? It was about.
Well, I feel that writers are constantly, perhaps chronically, reading towards that which they wish to write.
Right.
So, I mean, I've really fairly strong opinions about reading. I think that it's much more important to be a good reader than a writer. I'm constantly asked for advice and my thoughts on being a writer, and often by people who wish to be writers. And terrible because I'm always advising them to just be readers instead. I think it's much more rewarding. I was talking recently about this with someone, and I was saying, you know, I spent the guts of 10 years to write Malarky, and I may, you know, people spend the guts of 5 to 7 years to write a book. Imagine if you just read only for those 5 years and you didn't write. And at the end of it, imagine the contribution you can make to the discourse, to the conversations about reading. I mean, it's just extraordinary, the volume of books you would have engaged with, and you would be able to inter-engage with all of them. Whereas as a writer, you could spend 3 to 5 years or 2 years creating a novel that, for whatever series of reasons, nobody gets to read. And it's not just about being published, because you're published, but then you have to try to find readers. And readers seem to be diminishing to me. We seem to be becoming a community of, or audiences of writers maybe more than readers. And that's a definite shift.
I have to focus. It's like, oh, this is about your appearance at the International Festival of Authors, because I'm like, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about this. Will you promise me actually we'll do another interview at some point where we actually can talk about critique and reading and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah.
Promise me? Okay, good. Because I think you're fascinating. I love your opinions on these things. Okay, I want to talk about the place of sex in literature. Because this is there is some very sexy stuff in here, and you are not one to shy from anything, I would imagine. But
from shagging.
What's that?
I said I am not one to shy from shagging.
From shagging. Okay, so talk about shagging in literature and the role that it plays in Malarky.
I think I'm probably going to be extremely disappointing on shagging. I never would have conceived that I would have written a book with that kind of content. Honestly, I mean, I'm kind of more of a nun, really. I just started where that content came from. Even my partner's curious. No, that's not true. I'm a very practical, pragmatic woman. I come from a long line of hardy-legged farmers and coal miners, and I realized I think of sex as a very practical thing. So it would be the same in some ways, like not putting it into a book would be as odd as, say, not putting in the weather or the teapot or just, you know, average person breathing. I will tell you a great story. Well, I'm not supposed to be telling stories. I'm supposed to be talking about my book.
No, tell me. I want a story.
I've written. I was asked to review some years ago. I was asked to review a book. I wanted to write about Alan Bennett. Sorry, I was having a moment there. Alan Bennett's book, and so I ended up having to write about this other actress's sex book in order to. That was the deal that we made. I'd write this one and then I'd write about Alan Bennett. And Alan Bennett has actually had an extremely sexless life till he was about 42. So I love the dichotomy of these two books beside each other. But then subsequently I did an article for the newspaper about where I was reviewing sex guides for Valentine's Day. And I thought, I wrote the article, I thought, well, I better, you know, it's the West Coast, you know, I'm from a fairly Catholic background, I better just cover everything. So I went out there and I really covered everything, and I'll never forget, I got this note back from the editor of the paper which said, some of these paragraphs will never appear in our newspaper. And I remember so shocked, I thought it was pretty tepid and conservative. And then another friend of mine said, what were you thinking? Do you read that newspaper? And, well, I was just trying to cover all the bases. So ever since then I thought, well, you know, and that experience did make me want to respond, actually, to that experience. I felt that it was kind of ridiculous. You know, we live in an urban setting, and nothing that I've written in this article was particularly wild and kinky. It was fairly normal stuff. So I think I did put some of that content into my book.
Right.
But,
well, because you're pragmatic, so you had to reuse the material.
I was angry as well, honestly. I was a little angry that, because I felt at some level I was perhaps being you know, framed as a bit of a pervert.
Right.
You know, and that was probably my imagination. That was probably not intended at all. So probably a legal thing.
Okay, well, hold on a second. But now you're going to, well, you have been reading and sort of like appearing quite extensively for this book, and now you're going to at IFOA. Are you going to be reading the sexy bits in front of a live audience? You perv.
Well, I have, but I'll tell you where I read them.
Uh-huh.
I read them at the New Star benefit. There was a farming at the New Star Publishers. And so there was a benefit organised, and I read it. And I read the scene in the field at that event, because I said, I have one event and I can read this scene at, and it's today. And it went down very well. And people said to me, no, you should read that all the time, because the subjectivity, the perspective of the woman is so confused and naive.
Right. And is this the scene that you're referring to that Ivan Coyote said was the beep of the I'm not even gonna
it was the beep of the butt beep of the field.
The
in the field. I went to meet with Ivan once when she was writer in residence at Vancouver Public Library, and you know, she was just talking about the different scenes, and that was how she referred to one of them. It was great.
Well, yeah. Listen, I don't know if you're going to read it at IFOA or not, but I really do hope to be in the audience one day when you do.
I won't read that particular scene at IFOA, but the scene that I've been reading a lot, and will probably read at IFOA, is the only bad sex scene in the book, where our woman goes to the hotel and she picks up this man, this local traveling card salesman.
Yeah.
So I should explain that the premise essentially in the book is that a woman approaches her in a cafe and says she's had carnal knowledge of Philomena, our woman's husband. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that instead of her being destroyed by this information, she would choose to interrogate it instead. And and she would say to herself, okay, well, you know, my husband has done these things with this woman. I'm going to go and do them with somebody else to understand what it is and why he did it.
Yeah.
Because I'm very tired of, I'm just very tired of women being, having absolutely no good fun. And as sexually, there's a lot of, in Irish fiction, there's a lot of like painful, kind of miserable sex and women wincing under the quilt covers. And I suppose I wanted to respond to that.
Well, if this is the scene, I'm thinking of, I heard you actually read it at your launch here in Toronto.
Yes.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. So yeah, she, for the most part, she has kind of interesting and curious sexual experiences. And then she has this one experience, which is the disaster. Mm-hmm. But after that experience, she doesn't accept that as finality. She kind of psychologically picks up her buckets and moves forward and decides, well, she needs to find somebody who wasn't born in Ireland, obviously, to really understand this. So then she meets this young Syrian man at the library.
Wow.
And I often think of that small rural library and wonder if they'll ever get a copy of my book.
Anakana, this has been such a pleasure talking to you. This is, you know, it's just, first of all, I'm such a fan of yours. I think you're a delight. And I'm just so happy that you took the 10 years to sit down and tease us with this title. So, congratulations. Continued success on this. And please have a lot of fun when you're here in Toronto. I know I'm going to be seeing you at the festival.
I'm really looking forward to returning to Toronto because I was there earlier this year for the first time ever, and I just loved it. I thought it was a fabulous city, and
we'll have to go out and tip a pint, I guess.
Yeah, or I think I'll be on the teapot. To be honest, it's going to be quite a long festival season.
Okay, then we will tip the teapot together.
Thanks a million, Julie.
All right, thanks so much. Take care. Bye. Don't hang up.